Hey everyone, welcome to ATDev Podcast. We are joined today by a longtime advisor of ATDev, Mark Klopp. Hey Mark, how's it going?
Hey, Owen, good to see you. And thanks for including me in this podcast. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for being here, and thank you for all the invaluable help you've helped us out with over the years. So
Okay.
yeah, for those of our listeners who may not be familiar with your work, can you give us a little bit on your background and your journey?
Sure. Let's see. I'll go back to the educational part. My education is chemical engineering and business degrees. I was actually a corporate guy for 20 years in the chemical industry with Eastman Chemical Company. It was part of Kodak at the time and then spun out as a separate entity in the middle of my career there. I had a variety of roles while I was at Eastman. I started off in sales and went into marketing and product management and international business. But the last role I had there was what really made a long term impact on me. And that was starting up and leading their corporate venture capital arm of the company called Eastman
Yeah,
Ventures. And I did that for a number of years and then decided to go out on my own close to 20 years ago. And I've been freelancing since that time and doing a mix of consulting back to large companies on corporate venture capital, helping them form their strategy, launch their group, and then execute the business with best practices. And I've been doing
right.
that the whole time since I left Eastman. I also started advising companies, startups, and doing some angel investing. I got exposed to MedTech because I was looking to work on things that could actually make an impact. This was before
Yeah,
social impact investing. But for
right.
me, I was an engineer, so I could understand medical devices. So that tended to be my focus and was part of a incubator seed group called Coronis Medical Ventures. And then just have been more focused on that space than any others. And now I'm involved with some other fields, but always looking for that impact on improving lives in some way as the theme.
Yeah, yeah,
And
absolutely.
my,
I th-
and then my wife and I are involved with some not-for-profit organizations that focus on poverty alleviation, homelessness, rescue from slavery and trafficking, and
mm,
education in emerging countries.
that's great. Yeah, I mean, that definitely falls under your mission of making the world a better place. That's wonderful.
Trying.
Yeah, yeah, we do what we can.
Right. One
Yeah,
step
and
at
I
a time.
think that is one of the cool things about MedTech in particular is that you take your business knowledge, your engineering knowledge, and you apply it to hopefully something that does alleviate pain or suffering and
Yeah.
hopefully helps make people more healthy.
Yeah, and certainly you guys at Assisted Technology Development are an example of that on both of your products that you're working on. So very excited to work with you guys on that.
Yeah, well, we feel the same way. So I would love to just learn a little bit more about kind of your perspective as both an investor and also someone from a engineering and startup background.
Uh-huh.
What are some characteristics of startups that you lend to success? Is there something in particular that you look for when you're evaluating companies that you're like, ah, yeah, that's a box.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm probably going to sound like a lot of people, but it's first about the team and the values. I'm looking for founders that are optimistic, resilient, curious, adaptive, and obviously intelligent and creative because any startup, as you know, and goes through cycles of positives and negatives roller
I
coaster.
don't I
You
don't
can
know what
call
you're
it
talking about, Mark. It's been
manic.
all it's
Yeah.
been all good for us.
Yeah, every day is
Yeah, every day
beautiful,
is
right?
sunshine.
Yeah. Yeah, so you have to have those are all I what I mentioned was all soft skills, personality characteristics, not necessarily just hard skills. Obviously, it would be great if that entrepreneur understands the problem and is obsessed with solving the problem
Right.
and has the ability to attract others to the idea. I call it talent magnet to bring
Mm,
others on board to go solve that problem. And when I get involved, it's usually really early. So there's not a lot of evidence, hard evidence on other than the market opportunity and the idea. The only thing we know at this stage is that the idea is going to change. The solution
right.
won't be what it is today. It's going to iterate, it's going to pivot. So that's why it's so important to be focused, I think, on the entrepreneurs in this case. And so those winners that I've seen are obsessed over solving that problem, that it's urgent and it's not a nice to have, it's a have to have. There's a real need, a real burning need. I call it looking for antibiotic versus a vitamin. And they're not just
Yeah, I
obsessed
like
with
that.
building cool technology or a technology looking for a problem. They stay close to users or clients or patients in your case, iterating fast, focus on getting some traction. And that traction doesn't necessarily mean just sales, because in the case of a medical device company, you have to wait for approval to sell. But traction could be validation, testimonials, people who express interest that, hey, if you can deliver that device, I'm very interested in testing it or using it. So companies that are struggling for product market fit sometimes get distracted by features instead of
Yeah,
solving the real pain that exists. So that's in the really early stage, but the later stage companies, you're looking for market traction or commercial traction.
yeah, absolutely.
Does that
Yeah, I
answer
mean,
the question you're?
it does. Yeah, yeah. Such a great perspective. And I always love talking to investors about how they view the problem. Because
Yeah.
our view as founders, we obviously view the landscape very differently than an investor might. And I think it's very interesting to just hear both sides of the table. So just and yeah, a little bit to that end, I would love to hear a little bit more about how venture capital operates, particularly in the medtech space. I
Huh?
think that there's a lot of change happening right now all
Uh-huh.
throughout the business world, and certainly in venture capital is the bleeding edge of that. How have you seen VC change over the years, and where do you think we are headed as an industry?
I wish I had the answer to that. I can give you my opinion, my point of
Yep,
view. But I think in the med tech or the healthcare space, what we're seeing is more alternative sources of capital and creative ways to fund companies. So the traditional venture capital route for a med tech company has gotten very difficult because some of the pure play medical device VCs are no longer pure plays or have gone away, have not raised future funds. So there's more reliance on corporate VCs or family offices and angel groups, and then government funding or grants, which you guys have been able to benefit from that as well. Smaller funds that are a little more nimble and less formulaic, and maybe patient capital, because medtech does take a while to go through the regulatory and reimbursement barriers or hurdles
y-
that
yeah,
exist.
absolutely. Yeah.
But I think what in this emergence of impact investing, I think has helped open up some of those spaces. And then there's creative things that are being done where I'm very involved with the corporate side of things, but corporations might be willing to partner with a company earlier on, not necessarily an equity investment, but it could be a development deal where they're paying the company to develop something on their platform. There could be a license that's was in a joint development agreement, could be some go to market partnership or distribution agreement. And sometimes that can come with some funding, and sometimes that funding is non dilutive in the form of revenue. Companies are getting more creative around those kind of arrangements as well. But I think the clear thing is that there's some need to be the alignment of the type of capital with the mission and the timeline. So those
Yeah.
investors need to understand when is a likely exit going to occur, and are they willing to wait for that? What is the time? What is the multiple on the investment potential?
Yeah.
And in the case of MedTech, it's hard to get a unicorn, right? So if everybody's focused on a unicorn, there's very few MedTech unicorns. Many times those companies get bought earlier in their evolution, but not so they could be a very good return of 5, 10, 20x return without as much capital being put to work, but a sooner exit at a nice multiple versus having to have a $10 billion exit in order for anybody to make money. There's been many investors done extremely well with 50 to $200 million exits in the medtech space. Good to align with people that understand that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, that's really, really, really helpful insight. And I think the VC ecosystem in medtech, it is different than a pure B2B SaaS software
Right.
play. And so for investors that are medtech, you just need to understand that it's not the same, or it's a
Uh-huh.
little bit different, but there's still really healthy returns to be
Yes.
made. Yeah, and I'm curious, you've been mentoring entrepreneurs and startups for years. What is, a piece of advice or maybe a couple pieces of advice that you often find yourself repeating to these entrepreneurs?
I think many times I act as a cheerleader and also to give pep talks, especially when there are down down days in that
Yeah,
roller coaster manic existence that exists for a startup. But bottom line, you're going to want to see that resilience and ability to bounce back and handle the ups and downs. I've talked about that before. So, are you asking what kind of traits that founders need, or what? Make sure I
yeah,
understand the question. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay. So, I think passion for solving the problem should be the fuel, but you got to
yeah,
be practical in steering the company and making decisions on how to get there. I think the best founders that I've seen are able to validate the vision of solving that problem and do that with some data that supports their belief as well as their team's belief and the investors' belief that this can be done, this can be accomplished, and that they're the
yeah,
team to do it. And then being very coachable and open to feedback and know when and how to pivot without losing the North Star or the why of what they're trying to do, and the ability to resequence the business accordingly. So that's the
yeah,
adaptability characteristic that I talked about before. Having the conviction to keep plugging and keep trying to solve the problem, and then building a team that has complementary skills, the technical, clinical, commercial, and doers, people that can wear multiple hats, meaning different, they can play different roles within the company, getting good
yeah.
athletes. that
like
can
that.
play multiple utility players that can play multiple positions, because you don't have a lot of money to pay a lot of people. So you have to have people that
Right.
can do multiple things. So that getting
Yeah.
that team to be very mission driven, but data grounded.
Yes.
And then dealing with and navigating ambiguity, because you're not going to have all the data you need, but you have to go with when you have enough to move forward. And some the cliche that I've heard that I believe in is don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. And
Yes.
if you're an engineer, sometimes you want things to be perfect before you do anything. And that can paralyze a company. Instead of getting out there, getting a MVP, minimum viable product, proof of concept, and then iterating quickly to meet the market demand accordingly.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great advice. And yeah, I think all entrepreneurs can learn something from that for sure. And looking forward, I think we're in an era of rapid change in a
Uh-huh.
lot of ways. I think certainly in healthcare. What do you see as some of the biggest opportunities for innovation in healthcare and life sciences, or generally, where do you some exciting opportunities happening?
Yeah, I might not be the best person to talk about that, but I can tell you what I've observed. And I
Yeah,
think
that's great.
I think in the healthcare space, where healthcare can take advantage, healthcare solutions can take advantage of some of these new tools that we have, and that specifically AI and machine learning,
There
but
wouldn't be
not
a
necessarily.
podcast without
Yeah.
talking about AI.
Oh, I know. I was hoping I didn't have to bring it up, but I do.
I know.
But using that to personalize, to to code fast, to learn and solve a problem. But one of the things I always coach the entrepreneurs on who are trying to utilize AI is not try to build it yourself, build a LLM yourself. Take advantage of the tools on the shelf, understand how to use what's out there, because you're never going to be the you're not going to dominate that space, but you can be
Right.
very agile and let's say architect your business to utilize whatever best tool is available today and tomorrow. So what is the best tool today may not be the best tool tomorrow, so you need to architect your business to be able to take advantage of the best in breed solutions that are out there to solve the problem. I think that space is certainly interesting and it's going to present a lot of opportunities. I think the trend towards human centered design is also a good one and one to watch. Robotics, and maybe robotics as it relates to home care. Certainly, what you guys are doing on the next generation wheelchair, it
Yeah.
fits in that realm. You're also looking at things like neuroadaptive interfaces that may allow more independence for aging populations. Yeah. So those are
That's
just a
wonderful.
few examples. I'm not talking about new drugs or GLPs or anything like that. I'm more thinking about the med device space. But
Yeah.
those are a few that come to mind, and there's many others
Yeah.
that I don't know about or probably exist that I haven't thought about.
Yeah, it's an exciting time to be
Yeah.
an entrepreneur and an investor.
Yeah. So
Uh,
I'll give you an interesting example,
Great.
something a little more tangible.
Yeah.
There's a company called Precision OS. They're actually out of Vancouver, and they've designed a basically a simulation, a surgical simulation tool using AR,
Uh,
and they're using the Meta goggles
oh, yeah.
as their platform and Oculus, and they're basically able to help students in med school as well as existing practicing surgeons to practice their surgeries before they do them and do it as many times as they'd like. in a virtual environment, which is much better and easier to scale than cadaver work, let's just say,
Yeah,
and
sure.
much more actually realistic. Things like that. I see more of that kind of coming about, and that's going to help a lot in education, but it's actually going to help med device companies train their doctors on their devices. So I'm super excited about that company and
Yeah,
things like that. Robotic surgery, like intuitive surgical,
yeah,
telemedicine, those are all going to be, I think, more specific things that come out of this.
yeah, it is very exciting. Yeah, thank you so much for your time today, Mark. It's always enlightening, and I feel like I learn something new every time we chat. And for those listeners who might want to connect with you or potentially
Uh-huh.
work with you, what would be a good way to reach out?
Yeah, I think you can check my LinkedIn profile, and I don't know, you can post that in the podcast
Yeah,
notes, and my email,
great.
my Gmail. Yeah, I think you've got both of those. Happy to do that. It's M like Mark, V like Victor, KLOPP like Peter at gmail.com is my,
Awesome.
and there's not too many Mark Klopps on LinkedIn if you want to look that up.
Great. So yeah,
San Francisco Bay Area. Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, thanks again, Mark, and thanks to our listeners. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share, and stay tuned to the next one. All right, take care, everybody.
Thanks, Owen.